Hi guys, a couple of nights ago I went to see a musical called Spamalot in the West End, and this is the programme for it. This is kind of a new musical. I mean, it's been around for a few years, but the production that I saw was the touring production because it's been on tour for a couple of years, I believe, or at least a year and a half. Now, I'd never seen the show before. I'd heard of it. I'd always wanted to see it, but I just never had the chance to see it. I was very excited to see it. It's based on a Monty Python film. As you can see here, it says Monty Python Spamalot. But I've never seen any of Monty Python's works. I'd never been exposed to any of the films or the series, and so I just didn't know anything about it, to be honest. A lot of people go see the show because they're fans of Monty Python, and so I was a bit worried as to whether or not I was actually going to enjoy the show, because I wasn't sure what it was going to be about and stuff. I knew it was going to be funny because it's a comedy, and people had told me that it's very funny and stuff. I just really wasn't sure what to expect. My dad has seen the show a few years ago on Broadway, and my dad isn't usually much of a theatre fan, but he had recommended this show to me a lot. He always told me that it's one of his favourite shows. So obviously I thought if my dad likes it, and my dad doesn't usually like theatre shows, then it must be something really good. The show's currently at the Pinter Theatre in Piccadilly, and I went to see the show with my dad actually because obviously he wanted to see it again, and I was like, I might as well take someone who's already a fan of the show, because that might help me like the show if it's not very good. But honestly, from the very first scene, I just absolutely fell in love with the show. It was so funny. I mean, the whole show is just ridiculous with how funny it is, and by the end of it, my face muscles were actually hurting from laughing too much, because I was pretty much laughing throughout the whole show. And the show's not very long. It's actually like about an hour and a half, or 2 hours. It started at 7:30, it finished at 9:30. And usually West End shows last for about 3 hours. So I wasn't used to that, the fact that it finished early. I could have easily stayed in that theatre and watched like a bit more of that show. Except I imagine my face would have hurt really bad if it had been any longer, because I was like this throughout the whole show. I was like, oh, every single second of the show was funny. If you're a Monty Python fan, you'd already know this, but the humour in this is very British. But that doesn't mean that people can't enjoy it. There were loads of people in the audience, like American people, Asian people from all over the world. The night I went, and they all absolutely loved it. So I think no matter where you're from, how old you are, and whether or not you've actually seen any of Monty Python stuff before, you'd still enjoy the show. So much random stuff goes on in the show that I'm finding it quite difficult to actually explain the plot. But basically it's about King Arthur and some French people, and they basically go on a search to find the Holy Grail, and that's kind of what starts off the show, I guess, in a way. If I go into too much detail about the specific scenes in the show, I feel like I might give too much away, and I might ruin it for you if you go yourself. So I'm not going to go into too much detail, because I think there's so many surprises in the show, so many hilarious moments, that I just want to keep them fresh for you. The cast was excellent. They're such a hard-working cast, and they really looked like they were having the time of their lives on stage. Had great chemistry. They just looked like they were having lots of fun, and that they enjoyed being on that stage, just joking about and having fun. I saw Marcus Bridgestock as King Arthur. Marcus is a comedian. Apparently, I'd never heard of him for some reason, but he was so funny in the role of King Arthur. I thought he was brilliant. Bonnie Langford was the Lady of the Lake, and she was incredible. Her voice is just beautiful, and she was also very funny. She had some really funny moments in the show. One of my favourite songs was sung by her and John Robbins, and they were both hilarious. Speaking of John Robbins, he was just brilliant. So funny. He plays a few different characters in the show, but every character that he played was hilarious. Every time he was on that stage, I just couldn't stop laughing. I don't know what it is about him, but he was just so funny. Todd Harty was also in the show. You may remember him from Dancing on Ice a few years ago. He was kind of like the Jedward of Dancing on Ice. I thought he was brilliant, both in Dancing on Ice and in the show. He plays the character of Patsy, and he was just really good. There were so many good moments in the show, literally not a dull moment at all. But one of my personal highlights from the show was Adam Ellis's performance as Prince Herbert. He has a scene and a song in Act 2 which was just so funny, I could not stop laughing. He's just an amazing performer, and everyone in the audience was laughing. I mean, people were laughing throughout the whole show, but that moment in particular in Act 2 was just brilliant. There's quite a lot of pop culture references in the show. They mentioned Jedward, in the show at one point, which made me laugh. I'm a big Jedward fan. You might know this, you might not, I don't know. But I love them, and they weren't being nice to them in the show, but I'm used to people slagging off Jedward, and it was done in a nice way, I guess, and it was hilarious. The songs in the show were all very, very witty, very funny, pretty catchy, and the music's actually done by Eric Idle, and he actually makes an appearance in the show somehow. I don't want to give it away, but he's in the show in some form, which is pretty cool. The sets were good. There's not many scene changes in the show, but that's okay, and I could understand it because it was originally a touring production, and the Harold Pinter Theatre isn't very big. And I don't think it really needed lots of stuff on stage anyway. It worked so well. I mean, the humour in the show was so good that, you know, it didn't matter. Even if they were doing it on an empty stage, it would have been funny. Now, this show is finishing at the Harold Pinter Theatre on Sunday, the 9th of September, but it's opening again at the Playhouse Theatre in the West End in November. So if you don't get the chance to see it now, go and see it after November, because it's just a brilliant show. I'm definitely planning on going back. It's going to be a different cast, I think, slightly different cast. The production's going to be the same, I think. And yeah, it's just 2 hours of pure madness, silliness, ridiculousness on stage, and it's just going to leave you smiling and laughing for the rest of the evening. If you have already seen the show, as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if you haven't, then I definitely recommend you go and see it, especially if you just want some cheering up. And if you want a fun theatre trip, then this is definitely the show to go to. Spamalot. I absolutely loved it, and my first experience of Monty Python was a very, very good one. So I'm glad. I'll see you guys later. Bye.